Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. I got an exciting report for you today. I'm seeing some very bullish trends in the price of gold and in gold stocks. And so we're gonna do the trends are your friend sort of show today. For anybody that's new to watching my shows or hasn't signed up yet to be on my email list, you can go to rocksandstocks.substack.com. It's all free there, and you can find all my work there. I'm a little different than most in that all of my reports, all of my interviews, all of my uh, uh, shows are all available for everybody to find out what I've talked about in the past, and make it easy for you to see the calls that I made. So let me just get on to the correct screen here. That's the one we want. And just bear with me a second here. Let me make sure I got it on the right screen. There we go. All right, so I've got the big old gold chart up there, and boy, it's been doing quite spectacular. Basically, uh, it's it's doing what gold is supposed to do when you have a death spiral of debt, and the cost of servicing that debt is unsustainable. Plus, there is a stagflationary problem arising, and I think that that's going to come more into the forefront for investors. Uh, and as you can see on the chart here, it's trading at record highs. This is the futures chart, and basically it's trading at record highs against every fiat currency. And basically, what I think we've got happening is that, um, as you know, as readers of my reports know, I've written about my views that the debt and fiat currency system is broken, and which will cause a return to the gold standard. The key reason that it is broken is because of going off the gold standard about 50 years ago. And it basically took 50 years to break the debt and fiat currency system. And I think it will likely take decades to repair the damage of that. And so, what I don't see a lot of commentators really talking about, they do talk about the cyclicality of gold and the mining business. But the big cycle that I see happening that not a lot of people talk about is the return to the gold standard. I believe it's going to take a long time for, you look at the level of backing that the debt in the various different countries, including the United States, is only backed up by a few percent, 2 or 3% of the debt is backed up by gold. And as we go into the gold standard 2.0, what I think we're going to see happen is that backing will go to anywhere from 10 to 30% of the debt. 10% is a minimum, I think, for the health of the global economy. 20% is much better. 30% or more is ideal. And the reason that I think it needs to go through such a significant change is because without that discipline of the gold standard, the politicians will do what they do, which is spend, spend, spend. It doesn't matter if they're on the left or the right. You look at on the left over the last four presidents, Joe Biden, he did about 8.5 trillion of the debt, and Barack Obama, well, that was in one term. Barack Obama did about 7.8 a trillion. Then you got on the right side, you've got uh, George W. Bush, who did about 4.5 trillion, and then you've got Trump in his first term that did about just about 8 trillion as well. So if you add up the debt of those presidents, you're looking at 24 trillion of the 36.5 trillion have been brought on by the last four presidents. And that has a lot to do with them being able to have no controls over how they issue debt. With no backing, it's basically just churn out the money, churn out the debt, like it's a unlimited credit card and a broken like a broken slot machine of a printer of the currency that just gets printed and printed and printed. And the result of that is what we have now, which is inflation. Inflation is not just a problem of the United States, it's all over the world right now. In fact, I think what is realistically happening is we've got a stagflation in the United States and elsewhere, almost all over the world, which means that there's not enough economic growth relative to the level of inflation. Now, why it hasn't really concerned a lot of people yet in the United States is because the margin between the growth and the inflation is, let's say, 1%, using the phony numbers that the Federal Reserve and other government economists use, which is generated by the government, and you can't really trust it. It's not worth the paper it's printed on, or the paper that's printed because of it. And then to get a real handle on what's happening, you look at what the consumers are actually saying, because they live in the real world. And in the real world, the consumers are afraid of they're concerned about the economy, they're concerned about their jobs, they're concerned about inflation. They think that a recession is possible, as does the Atlanta Fed and the New York Fed, and that inflation will be significantly higher. So as you start to see that margin growing to 2, 3, 4% inflation above the growth, then people will really start to pay attention. And I would remind people that the last bout of significant stagflation in the United States was in the 1970s. And during that period, gold and silver went parabolic. And so those are, some of the key reasons that I'm so bullish on gold. And readers of my report know that I have been that way for a long time. And if you need proof of that, just go to my Substack. As I said, rocksandstocks.substack.com. And every one of my reports is available for people to check on the commentary that I've done. And one of the recent reports back on February the 18th that I'm quite excited about was I featured 10 companies that range from major gold miners all the way down to explorers with important discoveries. And they had made significant breakouts. And we're going to go over those companies later. But what makes it different than in 2024 was that basically, here I'm going to get to this chart. So in 2024, it kind of started out going sideways, and then it had a big breakout. And it went from the bottom left to the top right of the chart. Classic bull market, classic long-term bull market, by the way. And but during 2024, it was really only the major gold miners and then a select group, a smaller group of companies down the food chain that actually performed well. But what I've seen happen since is, and we're going to go over this, is since this end of 2024, we've seen a tremendous move, and I'm seeing a significant group of companies right along the food chain that are having impressive breakouts. And so I'm going to go over those and their stock charts. And then I also have a bonus three to add to that list. Now, I'm not going to be watching the time too much. I'm just going to go into and take however long I feel is necessary. But for those that want to look at specific companies, I'll put in the description of this video and in the emails that I send out to everybody where the specific companies are in the video. Okay, so let's start with gold. As you can see here, classic bull market trend. Lower left of the stock chart to the upper right. When you see these kind of trends, those are long-term trends. Now, what was also very exciting in 2024 for gold was that it set a series, because let me go back a little bit here. So back in, we'll go back a couple years here. So back in 2023, I had seen a trend developing that is a basing period. You can see that the range was from about 2072 down to the low end, which was at about 1820. But most of that time, it was averaging about, let's say, 1950. And then in the early part of 2024, I saw a new base developing above 2000, which I wrote about and talked about how I was expecting a significant breakout. Again, go see my reports from that time frame. And what got me so bullish at that point was this basing above 2000. Okay. Then in around the end of or middle of February, it bottomed right at 2000, and then in late February, early March, it had a tremendous breakout, and it went on to this fabulous run where it made a series of higher highs and higher lows, and along the way, it set a whole bunch of record all-time highs. That's nominal. It's not inflation adjusted, but I like to talk about what is, adjusting for inflation is challenging. If people just understood what we see in front of us here, that's good enough for me. All right. So as you can see here, really strong move. And the 200-day moving average is here in blue, and the 50-day moving average is here in red. I would also note that back here in December, it actually went through a golden cross, and since then, the 50-day moving average has stayed significantly above the 200-day moving average, and we've had a significant uptick in the 50-day moving average that will bring the 200-day moving average up as well. So I watch a lot for these basing periods. Just like this base here back in before March when gold really took off, that was an important base. This one here is an important base at about 2350-ish, took off again. another important base, another important basing period right in here. And I recognize this one from, let's say, February, first week of February till the first week of March. And it was sort of trending around 29.20 on the futures. And I talked about this in the last couple of reports in the last couple of weeks that I was expecting a significant breakout. And we got that breakout. And what I also reported is that I think that what we're going to see is that we're going to see days when gold is up 50, $100 days up. And not long after writing that, the market cooperated with me and we had a $50 up day here. That was on, what day was that? March the 13th, my lucky number. My son was born on the 13th of May, a Friday the 13th, by the way. When I played hockey, my number was 13. I always said it's bad luck for the other guys. But we had this nice $50 up day. And as we go forward in 2025, I believe that 2025 is going to be better for gold price than 2024. And I think now that we've broken above 3,000, that we're going to see 3,500 to 4,000 in 2025. And I actually think we'll probably hit 3,000 or 4,000 in 2025. And it just goes back to those things that I keep on talking about. The death spiral of debt, the cost of servicing that debt, the out of control spending of politicians, the broken fiat currency system, the broken debt system, the fact that gold is at record highs against every fiat currency tells you that the fiat currency system is broken. And the what's really flashing to me right now is that I think we're going to, I've written about this for several months now, that stagflation has been around for several months already. It's kind of been masked by these phony numbers that come out of the government about growth and inflation that I believe are understating the inflation and overstating the growth. And but that is now with these tariffs and mass deportations, I think it's going to cause the economy to slow down and inflation to pick up. And that will create a margin of 2 to 5% between inflation and the growth. And that stagflation is going to be very bullish for gold stocks. So let's get into the gold stocks now. Okay. So the first one I'm going to go to is Agnico Eagle. So back when I saw that base in the early part of 2024, I started writing about Agnico Eagle. And as you can see here, the stock chart of Agnico Eagle looks very much like the price of gold. But what is important to understand is that down here, you're looking at $60-ish. And up here, it closed today at 151. So that's significantly outperforming the price movement of gold. Now, why did I emphasize Agnico Eagle over the other two companies that are in the big three of the gold mining companies? Those would be Agnico Eagle, Barrick, and also Newmont. And I'm not going to bring up the Newmont and the Barrick charts, but they significantly underperformed as the price of gold and and Agnico Eagle, to the point that Agnico Eagle is now the most highest valued gold mining company in the business. So I kept on emphasizing that Agnico Eagle was a better operator than Barrick and Newmont. And if you wanted to be exposed to gold with less risk and the potential to significantly outperform gold, that Agnico Eagle was the ideal pick. And as you can see here, it's really done its job. Why the key metrics that I look at, like they're not a bigger producer of gold than a Newmont and and Barrick, but they're worth more. And the reason that they're worth more is that they're a cash flow machine. Um, they produce gold for about half the price of what they sell it for. And when you're producing millions of ounces of gold and making $1,500 per ounce you produce, you're going to be a free cash flow machine. In fact, you're going to be one of the best free cash flow machines on a relative basis of any industry in the world. And so Agnico Eagle is a phenomenal company. Now I'm going to zoom in. So as you can see here, just a classic, like the gold chart, just a classic long-term bullish chart. But what I want to emphasize is that in that February 18th report I wrote, just bear with me a second here. Right around, let me zoom in here a little bit so we can see it a little tighter. So right around here, I wrote about companies that had made significant breakouts from their lows, or sorry, where they closed at in 2024. So Agnico Eagle closed 2024 at $111.80 right here. And then they made this big breakout. Okay. And I reported basically right around here, I think I'm looking at, that I had seen a group of companies, 10 in fact, all throughout the food chain, from the big ones to the smaller ones, that had made similar type breakouts. And as you can see, they've continued because, again, they are the cream of the crop when it comes to the major gold miners. So nothing has changed about my opinion. I see gold going higher, and in a higher gold price, Agnico Eagle will just be more of a free cash flow machine, a better free cash flow machine. So if investors want to look at a gold miner that is top of their class when it comes to how efficiently they mine gold and also maintain their cost of producing the gold, plus increase their reserves, increase their production, and are actually bringing their cost of production down. These are the key metrics that have driven Agnico Eagle up to be the highest valued gold mining company in the business. And I think that they're just good. They've got a lot of blue sky ahead of them. All right. So now I'm going to zoom back here, get the 1 year. And so Agnico Eagle is in the top of the class of major mining companies. Now, in the mid tiers, I kind of think of Agnico Eagle, or I mean Alamos Gold, as sort of the oh, by the way, these are all in Canadian prices. Being a Canadian, I use Canadian prices. Shoot me if you want. Alrighty. So here's Agnico Eagle, mid-tier producer. And as you can see, they did just as well as Agnico Eagle. They ended, they were down here at about $17. I started covering them probably at around 18 or 19. And today they closed at $36.95. So they again significantly outperformed gold over as gold has had an exceptional 2024 and into 2025. And they're the same kind of story, just a smaller version of Agnico Eagle. They they're a free cash flow machine. They keep making records in free cash flow. They're increasing their production. They're replacing what they mine with new reserves. And what really has me impressed, and I think that as far as mid tiers and majors, I think Alamos has the potential to outperform everybody in that category. And why I say that is not only are they increasing their production, but they're already producing gold for around $200 less than the average of the gold miners. But they are in the process of bringing that cost of production, all in sustaining costs, down to a little over $1,000 an ounce. So at today's prices with $3,000 an ounce, every ounce of gold they produce, they're going to be making $2,000 in the next couple of years. And so those are some of the reasons that I think, as far as the mid tiers go, Alamos is the cream of the crop when it comes to the mid tiers. And again, this is a long-term chart that I think has a lot of legs left in it. All right. So now I'm going to go down to sort of a junior on its way to being a mid tier, and that's Equinox. There we go, Equinox. And so Equinox, during this sort of, let's say, 2-year period here, they were building one of Canada's new and largest gold mines in Geraldton, Ontario, called the Greenstone Mine. And oftentimes during the building of a new mine, especially for a company that was building a mine that would basically take them from about a 450,000 ounce producer to almost a million ounce producer. So that mine they were building was a fundamental building block of the company. And so they've been a company that I've been recommending in the reports because they're run by Ross Beatty, and Ross Beatty has been a major mine builder for many decades. He's a serial entrepreneur in the mining business, has had many successes, and this is sort of his swan song. This is he says it's his last company. Who knows? Maybe he'll build this one to be the next Barrick of the world, or the next Agnico Eagle. Who knows? But so as they were getting towards the end of building the Greenstone mine, they were a mine financing company called Orion owned 40% of Greenstone, and Equinox owned 60%. And they're a mine finance. They finance building of mines. They aren't involved in operating mines. And so just as this was about to get turned on, Greenstone Mine, they were approached by Orion that said, hey, we want to sell our interest. And are you interested? And they said, well, what's the price tag? And it was $1 billion. So Ross Beatty got on the phone, I guess, and called around to his banker friends and was able to borrow the money to buy out Orion. So now Equinox has 100% interest, and it's in production, and it's almost full commercial production. So as they were transitioning to get Greenstone into full commercial production, um, they decided to acquire Calibre, and Calibre has mines, current mines, and also bought out the mine in Newfoundland that was Marathon Gold had, and they are now building that, and soon that will be a mine. So collectively, all the mines that Calibre were involved with, and now Greenstone is going to turn Equinox into a million plus ounce producer with a very good cost profile and very low costs and high margins. And so, what they're going to spend 2025 doing is paying down that $1 billion of debt. So some people look at that and they go, "Oh, they're $1 billion in debt." Well, yeah, but it cost them that to build a mine and to buy out their partner, and they have the production profile and the free cash flow to probably pay that off within a year, year and a half. I guess, it somewhat depends on the price of gold and that sort of stuff, but it'll be a pretty quick payback. And then it's all gravy after that. So for a high growth gold miner, this one I think could, grow into a multi-billion dollar, let's say, a mid-tier producer. I think they've got a lot of blue sky ahead of them. Now, they were also in my February the 18th report because they had closed 2024 at $7.15 Canadian. And today they're trading at $9.91. So in February, I reported about this big move because they were another one that had made a significant breakout. And again, I emphasized in that report how in 2024, we didn't see, down the food chain companies in the gold space really enjoy the bull market in the price of gold. But why I wrote that February 18th report was because I saw a change. I saw a trend developing that I think is really going to it's going to come to the forefront during 2025, is that now the gold stocks are starting to participate, and they should, because a lot of them are free cash flow machines, and the price of the gold that's in the ground is being traded at a historical low level, and yet gold is trading at record highs. So, Warren Buffett and people like that talk about swinging at fat pitches. That is the fattest pitch you're ever going to see in the history of gold mining. That you can buy gold at historical low valuations in the ground while gold is at record highs and looks to head much higher. And so I really think that Equinox is going to have they're going to have a great 2025. They already got off to a very good start. And I think they got a lot of more blue sky ahead of them. Okay, so again, in that February 18th report, again, I keep on emphasizing how I was seeing companies down the food chain that were making significant breakouts. I'm going to zip out here a little bit. So this is the stock chart of Goliath Resources. And Goliath is my highest conviction gold explorer with an important discovery. This is really important that I clarify that because I have, other companies that I follow for their exploration potential, and I'm going to talk about some of those. But these guys have made a discovery, and it's an important one. And so they are my highest conviction pick in that category. And what what I they had a really significant, so I again, they were in that February 18th report, and they had closed the year at $1. Okay, so they closed 2024 here at $1. They ran all the way up to almost, well, 280-ish. And what caused this big run is they had a phenomenal hit in their drilling from the 2025 or 2024 summer and early fall drilling season up in the Golden Triangle of British Columbia. And so when they got these assay results back, it really caught a lot of people off guard and caught a lot of investor attention, which is what happens when you hit 132.93 grams per ton gold over 10 meters. That gives it a ground meter reading of 1,320, which puts it in the top percentile of hits anywhere in the business over the last 2 decades. So when you hit like that, it gets a lot of people's attention. Now, following up another hit like that is not easy. And so when they came out with the rest of the drill holes from the 2024 season, it wasn't as spectacular as what drove this up, although every hole hit gold. Every hole, 92% of the holes had visible gold in them. That's just sort of off the chart stuff, folks. I've been in the exploration business for 30 years, over 30 years actually. I'm dating myself, but I started in the business in 1993, so I guess I'm at 32 years in the business. And to see a company that hits mineralization on 100% of their holes, and in the 2024 season, they had 92% of the holes had visible gold, is unheard of, really. It's very rare to see that happen. It does happen from time to time, but not very often, especially in gold, especially in the Golden Triangle, and especially in a grassroots discovery. So they came down here and they bottomed at about $1.50, and they started their trend up again. I would note that they are trading above their 50-day moving average. I think that's an interesting development, and I think that as gold goes higher, it's really hard to find a gold explorer with such a spectacular project and the valuation that the company has, and in a jurisdiction like the prolific Golden Triangle of British Columbia. It's all quite spectacular, and that's why they're my highest conviction pick. A couple months from now, they'll start drilling again at their Surebet discovery, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that 2025 will be even better than 2024 with the drill rig. All right. So now I'm going to move to HelioStar. HSTR. HelioStar is another company I featured in that February report, around here somewhere, February 18th. And there again, they closed 2024 at 57 cents Canadian. Today they closed at $1.14. And I had noticed that they started the year with some sideways action and then blasted off. And then a lot of the gold stocks came off for a bit, about 2 or 3 weeks, and now they're back in that bullish trend. And what's driven this move is that they actually they're a junior that bought out an operating mine in Mexico. That a junior explorer doesn't usually have a chance to buy an operating gold mine. But they were timely in their acquisition. The project was thought of as not, spectacular, but when you're a junior that can then transition to a cash flow company, and they felt that it had a lot of exploration potential and the ability to increase the production, they pulled the trigger and they got the mine. They actually got a couple mines. And they are using sort of that success to build their key, future growth engine of mining, which is their uh, it always escapes me. Ana Paula. Their Ana Paula project is really high grade, thick intersections. I'm a big fan of that Ana Paula project. And I think it'll be a spectacular future mine. And in the meantime, they're cutting their teeth operating the mines they have, drilling Ana Paula, and moving everything to become they are mean to be a mid-tier producer. And so, you look at their valuation, it's got the valuation of a junior exploration company, but they are a producer now with a excellent growth profile in their production growth profile. So I see a lot of really good things ahead for HelioStar. Alrighty, so now another company from that February 18th report. Go and zoom out here. So let's take a look at what happened here is that, okay, so the company was run by Ewan Downey, and a lot of people know that Ewan Downey's been a good friend of the show for many years. He amassed a phenomenal group of projects in Nevada for i-80 Gold. But Ewan at his heart is a exploration guy and a deal maker. He's not really a mine operator. And so they brought in a mine operator, a guy who builds mines, had done it before uh, with a company called Teranga Gold. And Richard Young's his name. And he turned that company from a tiny little gold miner into a $2.8 billion Canadian dollar takeover. So he knows how to build mines and knows how to get a good win for its shareholders. But what happened here is Richard sort of changed the focus of the company. Ewan had made some discoveries of base metals and also really good hits with their gold projects. And he was sort of focusing on base metal exploration and gold exploration. And when Richard took over, he decided that he just wanted to focus on advancing the 5 gold projects into 5 gold mines in Nevada. And so when he expressed that, the market didn't really like it too much. And it got smacked all the way down to like 50 cents Canadian. And when you look at the quality of the projects that they have, like, they've got resources there of 15 million ounces, and they've done a whole lot of drilling beyond that. So stands to reason that the resources are a lot more than 15 million ounces. So to have a couple $100 million valuation was ridiculous. And so when Richard first came in, used $1 million of his own money and bought a big chunk of shares up here at over $1. And then he did the same when it got beaten down. And it's proved to be a very smart move because from that 50-cent low, it's now at $1.07. But the reason that I put them in that February 18th report was, again, here they had closed the year at Canadian 69 cents. And look at this run that they've been on that got them all the way over, let's say about $1.20-ish. So they had made a significant breakout, and that's why they were in that February the 18th report. But when you're, going through a management change and you're going through some growing pains and people have concern because they see the stock get beat down, back here, it creates a lot of turmoil. But I always focus on the quality of the projects and try to, look through the noise, which is the fluctuation in stock prices, and look at the signal, which is the quality of the projects. And I think that i-80 Gold, with the gold projects that they have, will grow into a mid-tier Nevada-focused gold mining company that will be worth significant, like, these companies like that tend to have 5 billion, sorry, and up valuations. And, so you look at this company with a few $100 million valuation, and I think they got a bright future ahead of them. Now, this is much more risky than an Agnico Eagle or an Alamos or an Equinox. And so, this is not for the faint of heart. But I do believe that i-80 Gold is it's one of my favorite turnaround picks in the gold space. And I think that they've got a lot of blue sky ahead of them. Alrighty. Okay, Orla Mining. ORLA. Orla. Alrighty. Okay, so Orla. Let's take a little walk back in time here. I've been following this company and the reports for a few years. It kind of went sideways for 2022 and 2023 because they were building their Camino Rojo project in Mexico, heap leach operation, makes lots of money, low-cost producer. But then they've had a very substantial move from the third quarter of 2024. And part of that is that they've used the free cash flow from their Camino Rojo mine to buy another mine in Nevada. And then they've also bought the Musselwhite project from Newmont. About a year and a half ago, Newmont decided that they wanted to sell the mines that were not, their tier one mines. And they had planned on getting a couple $1 billion for those. They ended up getting, I think, close to $4 billion. And one of those was Musselwhite. And what it may not be a company maker for a company like a Newmont, one of the largest top 3 gold miners in the world, but it is a hell of a project for a company the size of Orla. And it's a kind of project that with their project, they're building a mine in Nevada. They've got a mine in Camino Rojo in Mexico. They got a mine at Musselwhite, and they think that they've got a lot of exploration potential to keep the Musselwhite mine going well beyond the 6 years that are kind of left in the mine life. And so that's helped them do very well over the last year. But again, the reason that I had picked them or had featured them in that February 18th report, stretch things out a little here so you can see more clearly. They closed 2024 at $7.81 Canadian. So they're now trading, they closed today at 1304. So, it's almost been not quite a double, but it's tacked on about $5.20 from $7.81. So that's a pretty good move. And I really think that they've got the engine, the growth profile to keep increasing their production while the price of gold is going up and have a very profitable, like they're mining gold for about the half the price of what they can sell it for. So this is a high growth gold miner that I think is going to grow into a mid tier. And that's why I've been following Orla. I actually started following them before they even put their Camino Rojo project into production because I live in the same state in Mexico, the state of Zacatecas, as Camino Rojo. So I live in a community where I would see the Camino Rojo trucks running around. And so it was kind of in my backyard. And that's why I followed the Camino Rojo project. And glad I did because they've used Camino Rojo to launch themselves into being a bigger company. All righty. So now I'm going to go to another explorer. This one is actually a copper explorer, a copper discovery company, but it's a multi metal discovery. It's got base metals, it's got gold, it's got precious metals, it's got, but on a copper equivalent basis, they found a very high grade copper discovery, and it actually is my highest conviction copper discovery company. And I started talking about them in the third quarter of 2024. I think the first time I featured them in a report, they were somewhere around 75 cents ish. They've done really well since then, currently trading at $1.63 in a matter of 4 or 5 months. But why I put them in that February 18th report was they closed 2024 at $1.06. And today they closed at $1.63. So they've tacked on 57 cents from $1.06 to $1.63. And, it's a combination of a better market or more into, let's say we went from in 2024, everybody was looking at it as a cup half empty. So even if you had really good results, sometimes that was just being used as a liquidity event. But I think we've kind of went to a transition that maybe the cup isn't half empty anymore. Maybe it's going to be half full in 2025. And so we're starting to see these breakouts. And that's why I had these 10 companies in the report, because that's exactly what I saw. I saw a significant group of them making these, big rallies, big breakouts in early 2025, which was much different than we had seen in 2024. Now, what makes this project exciting is it is a polymetallic project like Norilsk. In fact, they talk about their NISK project as the Norilsk of Canada. Now, that's a pretty big statement because Norilsk is one of the great mines of the world. But it may not be pie in the sky because if you look at the grades of what they're hitting, it's pretty spectacular stuff. And it's caught the attention of Robert Friedland's a big shareholder, Rob McEwen. The Gina Reinhardt, who made her fortune in Australian mining, is a big shareholder. They've got a really large group of, billionaire type mining investors that know what they're know when they see something special. And I think that's exactly what Power Nickel has. Actually, they've changed their name, and I noticed that Stock Charts hasn't changed their name. Their new name is not no longer Power Nickel. It's now Met, Power Power Metal Power Metallic Metals. I can't remember. You'll have to look it up. There's the stock symbol is correct. It is PNPN. Power Metallic. Power Metallic, I think it is now. I know it is Power Nickel, same company and same discovery. Their NISC discovery looks quite phenomenal, and I think it's got a hell of a future ahead of it. Now, I'm going to, and I hope that sometimes stock charts doesn't have all of the, oh, good, they do. Ramp Metals. Now, Ramp Metals has only been a publicly traded company since March. So they've only been trading for 1 year. And a few months into being a publicly traded company, they made an impressive discovery. They drilled one hole into a geophysical anomaly looking for base metals, and they found high-grade gold, 75 grams per ton of gold over 7.5 meters. And boom, it went up. And then it kind of went sideways. They raised money at this higher prices, so they've been able to keep their stock really tight. And then they were awaiting permits to get back on the property to drill it. So it's got quite a story and not a lot of stock out. I think 45 million shares, fully diluted. Got about $4 million in the treasury. They are a sponsor of my report, by the way. Did I forget to mention other sponsors of my reports? I don't think I did. No, I didn't. Good. All right. I'm still behaving myself. Okay, so Ramp is a sponsor, and they just came on about 2 months ago. And I love high grade gold. And when you make a grassroots discovery with your first hole, it's in Saskatchewan, grassroots discoveries don't come around very often anymore. And these guys got one. So why they were in that February 18th report is because they closed the year at 80 cents Canadian. And as you can see, they closed today at $1.24. They've been on a pretty good run here because they got their permits to drill. And they also have the drills on the property now. And they're probably going to be drilling to follow up on that spectacular 75 gram, I think, 75 grams over 7.5 meters hit. They're following that up with only the second hole on that discovery. And so I'm eager about the project. I love these new discoveries. It's kind of a swing for the fences, folks. If they hit, it could be a massive home run. If they don't, well, they actually have other targets on their property that are base metals. So they have some diversification of their targets on that project. And I think they could make other discoveries as well as do well on the gold discovery that they have. So, but bear in mind, this is an explorer, and with a new discovery with only one hole in it, but I like what I see so far. I actually did an interview with the company about 10 days ago. You can find that on my rocksandstocks.substack.com or on my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News. So stay tuned because they're going to be drilling, and I'll be watching very closely for the results. Now, the final company in that that report of February 18th was Vizsla. But make no mistake about it. My reports are that report was alphabetical. And you can see since the lows of 2024 there, they have had a very significant run. And and by the way, they're a sponsor of my reports as well. And why they have done so well is they have a spectacular project, a gold and silver project that has a preliminary economic assessment on it at a base case using gold and silver that are significantly lower than where they're trading at now. They still had a internal rate of return of 85%. Folks, you do not see mines these days with 85% copper develop or gold and silver development projects with 85% IRRs. And you don't see them with $200 million. You don't see many mines of any sort these days that are under $1 billion to build. Theirs is a underground project right beside a road with power, a community nearby, so they don't have to build a new city to build a mine there. And it's a $200 million price tag. And based on that base case scenario in their preliminary economic assessment, they would pay the capital cost to build it, they would pay that back in approximately 8 or 9 months. Now, a lot of times, junior exploration companies, they get bought out because they need a bigger company to actually build the mine. In the case of Vizsla, they're very special because the capex is a couple hundred million. They have about 100 million in cash in the bank right now. And they also have a valuation. Their stock value is worth about 2 or 3 times the capex. So this is something that they can finance and build themselves. They got the guy who built the Las Chispas mine for Silvercrest, who also built about 40 other mines. Simon Smirlik, really brilliant mine builder. He's on the board of directors and he's their chief operating officer. So everything is moving in the right direction. They're working on their permits. And if they get their permits, let's say in the next 6 months or so, they can be mining by 2027, maybe even the latter half of 2026. And so Vizsla has a phenomenal growth story ahead of it. And why they were in that February 18th report is, again, here's another one. Their closed 2024 at $2.46 Canadian. And then they had this breakout. And again, last year, the breakouts were basically the companies like Agnico Eagle, Alamos Gold, Silvercrest, another big pick in the report that got bought out in the last couple months for, really was a great pick in the report. I'll just leave it at that. You can go do your own research on when I picked it, how much it went up from when I picked it, how many times I picked it. But they were it was a select group of companies that participated in the gold move last year. It didn't really make its way down the food chain to the explorers and the developers and the mid tiers and the smaller mid tiers or junior miners that want to grow into mid tiers. But here in this February 18th report, I had 10 companies from the majors all the way down to mid tiers, juniors growing into mid tiers, developers, and explorers. And so we hadn't seen that. I couldn't have written that February 18th report anytime in 2024 because it didn't happen. Didn't happen until this year. And here again, they closed at 246 Canadian on the end of 2024 and are now at $3.43. So that's a significant group of companies that have broken out. And, that's why I had that report, why I put that report together was to highlight, this trend that I was seeing. Okay. So that's an update on all those companies from the February 18th report. I'm going to put a link to that in the description on YouTube. And if you're receiving this through my stock Substack, you know how to find that report. But I've got four new companies to talk about. And I'm gonna first talk about Borealis. Borealis Mining is a brand new company. They started trading in August of 2024. They came out of the gate very strongly because some of the factors are the quality of the project that they have in Nevada, the quality of the board of directors that they have. They've got Tony McCooch, who was the leader of Kirkland Lake that went from a small producer to a $14 billion takeover. Bob Buchan, who was a founder of Kinross, is on the board of directors. They've got a really stellar group of board of directors. And then they also have Rob McEwen is a 15% owner. He actually bought his position prior to the company going public. And Kelly Malcolm and myself introduced the company to Rob. And when we did that, he was impressed with the quality of the Borealis project. And he looked at it and he said, well, I'd like to take Waterton out. Can you get the entire position from them? So Kelly did his magic with the Waterton people and got them to sell all their stock. And so they were able to replace Waterton, who has a so-so reputation because they tend to blow out their stock in these kind of deals. And they got a long-term shareholder in Rob McEwen, who sees the vision, and he is a member of the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame, has made a lot of his wealth from investing in mining companies and building his own. And so they got this great group of people involved, great project. And then they went and they made an offer for another company right around in here. So that kind of had them going sideways for a while because they decided to take over another junior that has a project that's not big enough for a major mining company, but can be a really good cash generator for a company like Borealis. And why I like Borealis a lot is that they've got three catalysts for growth. One is that they have the Borealis project, which is a permitted mine. It had been in production in the past, and it had some problems because of the operators running into debt problems. These guys the leaders of Borealis were able to get it at a discount. Oh, by the way, this is a sponsor of my reports too. You don't want to forget that, so I'm biased. They were opportunistic when they got that project. And it looks like it's got a great exploration potential and the potential it's got all the mining facilities, all the permits, all the power, everything you need to turn it back on. They've produced a little bit of gold residual leaching from the leach pad where there was some gold left in there. And it's actually produced this, about $1 million of cash. So no small amount. So then as they were doing this takeover, they had to wait and wait and wait because you got all these regulatory things to deal with. And then they announced the private placement, and as it was closing, the stock started to move up because within 2 days of announcing it, they had full commitment for $10 million worth of financing. And two of those financiers were Rob McEwen increased his position, and Eric Sprott, who was a shareholder prior to the company going public, also increased his position, and he got over 10%, I think now he owns. So you got, two of the most wealthy Canadian mining investors owning about 25% of Borealis. They don't do that for the fun of it, folks. They also had a nice rally around here when they closed the financing. And then they announced assay results from drilling, which were really impressive. Then they closed on the deal to acquire another junior. And so now they've got a bunch of their pieces together, and they're now trading above their 52 or above their 50-week moving average. So I think that this is, what I consider a candidate for a breakout. Now, bear in mind, again, they're a sponsor of my report. I'm biased. Yes, I'm biased about every pick I've ever made, every comment I've ever made. My biggest bias is I want to be right. And I tend to be right a lot. But do your own homework. Go to my Substack and you'll see my reports and you can see if I get it right a lot more often than I get it wrong. But keep in mind that they are a sponsor of my show, and but nonetheless, if they weren't a sponsor, I would still consider them a breakout candidate. And just keep watching for more news from that company and do your homework on them. Okay, another company that Rob McEwen owns a significant amount of is a company called Canadian Gold Corp. And Canadian Gold Corp has got a project, a high grade gold project in an orogenic gold setting in Manitoba near the town of Flin Flon. Great infrastructure. It was a past producing mine. And this is another situation where a past producing mine ran into some difficulties when gold was a lot cheaper. Uh, they had to shut down the mine. I think the company went bankrupt, and then it's had a resurgence. And Canadian Gold Corp's gone in there and did some additional drilling below where the past production was from, and they've hit a lot of really high grade gold over significant widths. And they're kind of going under the screen, under the radar screen of a lot of investors. But Rob McEwen owns, I think, around 35% of this company, and they got a great project. They don't have a lot of stock out. In fact, Rob McEwen is they're in the process of he's putting more money into this company, or maybe it's you got to check on that. It might be McEwen Mining, Rob McEwen's company. One of them is putting money into the company. And yeah, this is a great project. I just think it needs some more attention. And I like the story a lot. Again, here's another interesting one where it's recently had a golden cross. Bit of a sleeper because it doesn't have a lot of trading volume. But again, I think that this is an underloved discovery that they're drilling right now that could have a lot of good news out on it. And that's why I like Canadian Gold Corp. And you should do your homework on that one. Okay, I've talked about Rob McEwen a lot. And let's talk about his company, McEwen Mining. because I think that they're another one that could have a significant breakout. Um, they kind of got pounded on, strangely enough, because they were able to raise uh, over $100 million in a convertible offering, and it's I think it was misunderstood because people thought that it was your traditional Canadian convertible debenture kind of deal. And because McEwen Mining is a Colorado registered company, they're allowed to do a unique kind of American only convertible debenture. It's got some wrinkles to it, but the basics are that by using a hedge that's part of this deal, they end up, if they perform, if the stock goes up, or actually even if it doesn't go up, they still get to convert at about 100% above what they did the financing at. So it's a really attractive convertible, but I think it was misunderstood because it's not your traditional Canadian convertible where, you're usually giving your stock away at a discount and paying a high premium. In this case, they're paying 5.25% or something like that on the money. They can convert it into stock at double the current or double where they did the pricing of it at. But so that caused them to get down to this low here. And since then, they've made a significant recovery over the last couple of weeks. And this is what I find interesting. It just popped above its 50-week moving average. I love to see these kind of things because they often mean that you got more upwards movement. And when you sort of come from this kind of action and then you get a breakout above the 50-day moving average, I tend to pay a lot of attention to those. And I think that this one has a very interesting scenario developing. So that's McEwen Mining. And now I'm going to go to a very tiny, a $6 million valuation company called Xali Gold. And this is a sort of a trade by appointment company. But they did a deal with a company that I'm involved with that had a 57 square kilometer project right beside Las Chispas, which Silvercrest got bought out for, I think it was 3 or 4 billion dollars, 3 billion, 2.5 billion Canadian dollars. And the company that I am involved with had the Serape project, which is 57 square kilometers right beside the Las Chispas mine. Now, I know the CEO of Xali Gold and have for several years. Her name is Joanne Fries, or pe people in the business call her Joey Fries. And Joey was the qualified person geologist for a huge success story in the 1990s called Arequipa. That's when I met Joey, was when so shortly after Arequipa was bought out by Barrick, and Barrick put that into production. It was one of these 30 cents to $30 success stories in the 1990s in the mining space. And so Joey's a very talented geologist. And in talking to her about her company, Xali Gold, I became aware of the project she had called El Oro. El Oro is a project that she got off of Gold Corp years ago. And when it became, they were able to raise some money in around 2021 when things were better for junior financing of exploration. But then it got cut tough for a couple of years, and they weren't able to raise the money to get more drilling on El Oro. But when I looked at El Oro, I was hugely impressed. It was a historical producer of 8 million ounces of gold that had never been drilled. It never, this was back decades ago when they would just follow these veins in Mexico and they produced a reported 8 million ounces of high grade gold from these vein system at El Oro. And I really like that El Oro project a lot. And so when Joey and I started talking a few months ago, and I kind of a light bulb went off in my head one day, and I said, "Man, it would be nice to have Serape and El Oro in one company." So Xali Gold did a deal to option the Serape project from the company I'm involved with, and they can earn up to a 90% interest. My company would keep a 10% interest, and if they get to the 90% interest, my company called Advanced Lithium would then own about half of the stock of Xali Gold. So it's kind of an interesting that you got to get kind of creative in tough markets for exploration companies. And Joey and I got creative because we really liked each other's projects. Now, Advanced Lithium is halted because we were focused on lithium in Mexico, and I don't want to get into a long story about that, but when the previous uh, president of Mexico kind of put a moratorium on lithium, it put my company in a really tough position. We couldn't raise money, so we're currently halted. But part of this deal is there's cash component to it, and we're going to use that cash to get our company back trading again. But in the meantime, Xali Gold is optioning it so they can drill it. And if everything goes according to what we hope it will, they will own 90% of it. Advance will own 10% of it, and we'll own a big chunk of the stock of Xali Gold. And Xali Gold will work on El Oro and Serape. And all when I just look at projects for their exploration potential, Serape and El Oro are high on my list. They kind of check every box I look for in an exploration project. And there's two of those that are kind of my top exploration projects, in one junior that only has about a $4.5 million valuation. So keep an eye on Xali Gold, do your homework on Xali Gold. And so there you go. I'm going to turn off this screen share. There you go, folks. So I did a little chat about the price, why gold is doing so well and why I think it will have a great year in 2025. I highlighted the 10 companies from my February 18th report and gave you a little update on those as well. I added 4 companies that I think have the potential for breakouts, like the 10 that are in that breakout report. And yeah, as always, I'm just an idea generator, folks. I'm not making buying or selling recommendations. I don't know your risk profile. I don't know what you're looking for. I'm just trying to give you some ideas based on my 30 years in the mining business as an exploration guy. And the truth machine over there, what I look for in the truth machine, that's a drill rig from a project I drilled in Mexico. And yeah, I'm just an idea generator. I'm biased. I have opinions on companies and sectors and stocks and everything else. But those are my biases. Those are my opinions. I want to be right, but that's neither here nor there. You have to do your own homework. You have to speak with your financial advisors and find and see which of these companies, if any of them, make sense to you. If they don't, well, I hope I gave you some helpful information on the price of gold. On that note, have a great day, and we will talk to you soon.